Hello, 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 hello. Thank you for being so patient. Um, it's been a crazy time. So this is actually kind of interesting because I did your reading the other day. Um, but I'm just not satisfied with it. I don't know. For some reason, like I just feel like I was going through something that day, and like I put it on YouTube like unlisted, and I don't know. It was like 2 hours too, and like I feel like I probably did a good job, but I don't know, for some reason it just didn't feel right. Or else like, after every reading I usually just like I'm so excited and then I just send it right away, like there's not even a sliver of a doubt. But I don't know. I just didn't feel like that. Um so let's like I'm gonna give it another try, and then I guess in doing this I'll be able to tell. I'll probably just be able to give you both readings. Because like I'll be able to tell like in doing this, if I feel like I really did mess that one up, or if I'm just being hard on myself and it was good. So yeah, anyways, we've got, the Aries, so I know this chart. The T square, right? With the sun in Aries, Gemini or Libra ascendant, and then the moon in Cancer, right? Excuse my allergies. My forehead like But yeah, so a T-square in astrology is basically, especially with your big three, I'll show you. Let's go ahead and share. Let's do a little, yeah, sound test looks good. Let's share the screen. So moon in Cancer, sun in Aries with Venus on it. That's very important to note. I said the timer right. Yeah. Um, so as an Aries sun, I'm trying to turn my camera off if you don't mind, so I can get into my meditative zone with my crystals. Where are my crystals? There's one. All right. All right. All right. So, as an Aries sun, Cancer moon, you have a very strong sun and a very strong moon. Um, Moon in Cancer, very emotional, very empathetic, very good at meeting your own emotional needs. Now, what I'll say about Moon in Cancer, though, is that it is, I don't ever like to be the guy who says it's the best moon sign, it's the worst moon sign. Like Cancer moon, the moon is in dignity in Cancer, right? Because the moon likes to be in Cancer the most because it's a sign that is very it's very empathetic, right? It's very good. It's very like the moon is the emotions, right? Um, and the moon in Cancer likes to feel that flow, that watery ability to kind of like feel and meet the emotional needs, right? So a Cancer moon, it'll be someone who's very emotional. But the whole point of emotions is to not repress them. So people sometimes will give the Cancer moons a hard time, like, oh, they're crybabies, blah, blah, blah. That's like literally like, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, unless you want to just have like a bunch, very repressed energy, you know, repressed emotions, like through that, you should be you should like when you're sad, you should cry. It's like with animals. When they after a fight, when your cats fight each other, if you have cats, like they shake it off, right? So that's kind of what it is. Um, and like a Cancer moon, let's say there's a Cancer moon, you, and like a Gemini moon, like the same thing happens to both. The Gemini moon might push it away for like, I don't know, I'll think about that. I'll feel that emotion in 8 months and just let it kind of be in my unconscious and fuck with me, blah, blah, blah. The Cancer moon, no, it feels things very intensely and deeply, right? So on that point, and you can see with where your moon is, right? Right here. Moon, you see how it's a square. Like you can't tell because of all the lines I have, but you can see it's 23 ascendant, 17 Libra. So that's a square, moon and ascendant. And then the moon squares the sun opposes the ascendant, right? So you see that T square. So having a T square, your big three is very interesting, right? So we kind of have to break down each part of it. But because with a T square, it's, there's a resolution point. It's like a bow and arrow, and it's the opposite part of the zodiac. So it's like wherever the apex, which the apex of the T square is the moon, right? You can see that like the ascendant, they both square the moon, so it's like a bow and arrow. It shoots out at 23, right on your part of fortune in Capricorn, right? Um, so in this case, like I was saying, a Cancer moon, it's very different than your other, being an Aries sun. I don't really go into sun signs here, but just we know that Aries is very headstrong. It's very social. It's very, it's that first, it's the fire, it's the first sign, right? So it's like very adventurous. Sometimes, it can be like a little, very, very childish at times, but it likes to have fun. It's social. It's competitive. All that stuff, right? So the square with Cancer and Aries is between the Cancer moon, which might be more of a homebody. So with the sun square moon, first of all, and this is coming from someone who has one in their own chart, there is always like a lot of times the parents, whether they're divorced or not, a lot of times they are, but I don't make those claims because I've seen parents divorced when the sun and moon were trine. But overall, typically the person receives very different messages from both parents, from each parent. And then in just like the early kind of growing up, there's like these two, the sun and moon, like these two very important parts of the self. It's almost like there's like two selves, right? And you have to learn two mouths that you need to feed within yourself, the sun and the moon. So the moon is the emotional need, the sun is the identity. Um, who you are, right? So, but the moon is maybe, probably more important. I always say it's more important because it's like without following your moon sign, you can't, your moon sign tells you what you need, right? What you absolutely need to feel happy, to feel secure. So a Cancer moon definitely is going to be more introverted than an Aries, like a typical Aries sun, right? Aries sun, yeah, there's Venus on it, the chart ruler Venus, because you're a Libra ascendant. So Venus rules your chart, which is, nice, and it makes that Venus stronger, and it's already on your sun. So I think I said this in the reading. I'll probably just delete, but I can just send it to you. Why not? I mean, if you want, whatever. But yeah, like Venus, like this Venus becomes mega strong, and like I wouldn't be surprised if you're an artist. At the very least, someone who's attractive, someone who has a very nice vibe to them, like a really good energy that is it's good for attracting people. It really makes like beauty a big part. Beauty, like creating beauty, having like a harmonious energy, like Venus on your sun, it kind of kicks away a lot of like the real difficult parts of being an Aries, right? Which can sometimes be like, at the extreme. I'm not saying that you're like this at all, but Aries, they're in their low vibe can be bullies, right? And they can be like sometimes they. So this is what's really neat about your sun and your moon, even though they square, is that yeah, you're an Aries, or an Aries sun, but you have Venus on it, which is going to definitely add sensitivity. And then on top of that, you the Venus, we can't just call it a normal Aries sun, but the Aries sun conjunct Venus, but then you have this Cancer moon. So it really, like, with a lot of Aries people, sometimes they're just too fiery, and they don't understand. Like, this is what I've noticed a lot about like very Aries fiery people, is that they they a lot of times, especially like when they, namely when they lack water in their chart, right? Let's say it's like an Aries sun, Leo moon, or Gemini moon, whatever, right? They can not notice the small emotional details in everyday life, right? So they might not notice when they say something or do something that a more sensitive person can be affected by. Um, Life for most Aries tends to go at like pretty fast speed. So having a Cancer moon, yeah, there's a conflict, which we'll talk about, but at the same time, there's definitely definitely a part of it that is enabling you to truly feel what other people are feeling at a very deep level. Um, so that is just a really nice thing. That's a really nice thing. But speaking of like the conflict part, right? The difficult part, it's really about um, just how Cancer is, like I was saying before, is the homebody, right? Cancer is the homebody, and Aries is like the ultimate adventure. Aries and Sag, right? They're just like these signs that just want to just go. They don't want to just like wait. They want to just go. So um, I imagine like having this energy can be difficult because there can be a part of you that wants to just um I guess you could say kind of relax and be, of course, like all Cancer moons, they have a very close relationship with their mother typically. I'm not gonna say that, like, okay, I said that wrong. Like, there's usually like home, not just the mother, but like usually, they're very like like sometimes they're very involved with their family, right? Of Cancer rules the family. So, Cancer moon would probably get more joy, just like, let's say like you were just like full on Cancer, right? Cancer sun, Cancer moon. No, Mika. No. Mika doing bad things. Bad Mika. No, Mika. So, if you were just like all around Cancer, right? Um, you probably like a Cancer, a double Cancer, sun and moon. I have a friend who's one. It's like way less about like all of the fiery, airy stuff. It's way more just like relax, chill, stay inside. Not like way more domestic. So that's kind of the square. And I'm a Pisces Sag, so I know what it's like to have a square of fire and water. And I always say there's like a part of me that wants to just sit and meditate all day, and just like be very with Pisces and Cancer, they have it in common, very introverted, right? There's a part that feels very introverted. I'll get into how this relates to your rising because it's quite interesting. And then a part that just like needs to explore, right? That's the thing that Aries and Sag have in common. Like needs to explore, needs to just go, needs to just do things, needs to be active, right? So that's kind of like, how do you find that balance is the question. How do you not overdo it on either side? um how do you meet both needs? So another thing that's interesting is that your rising squares your moon. And as an Aries sun, Libra rising, what can happen is like it's like the big three are like you can think of it like an egg. The outside is the rising, the white part is the sun, and the middle, the yolk, is the moon. So when your yolk, aka the part of you that like only people who really get to know you see, is very sensitive, but then the external the you know like the sun and the rising are not like that, you'll be it could create like some difficulties because in the sense that like you're way more sensitive than you appear. Now, having Venus on your sun will definitely give like more of a calm and serenity feeling, right, for Aries. And then Libra rising also, but still, um, sun, moon square, ascendant is tricky like that because especially when you have like a very introverted moon, and very sensitive moon, because you might like Libra rising is definitely very very social, right? Libra's a social sign, and it really craves beauty, and it has beauty. It's very very involved with relationships of all sorts, right? And it's really about finding balance, as you know about Libra. Um, so one thing that Libra rising is so interesting because it makes it so every house. So like you see here, first house is the house that's naturally connected to Aries, right? But in the Aries is the opposite sign of Libra. And what happens for Libra rising is the only rising sign that has this is that every single house gets flipped. So there's this huge polarity, like this huge um a lot, like it's just like, for example, like the second house is a house of Taurus, but your second house is Scorpio, the opposite sign of Taurus, right? And it goes like that for every single house. The third house of Gemini, you have it in its opposite sign, Sag. Fourth house of Cancer, you have it in its opposite sign, Capricorn. So basically, it kind of like it has a very interesting effect. I'll get into it a little bit, but kind of finishing what I'm saying here is that the Libra rising, you have to always know as a Libra rising. Yeah, I think like Libra rising, it's definitely better than like a Libra moon or a Libra sun at this, right? But and especially as an Aries sun, and this is what I'll get into, is the axis of Libra Aries, which is super highlighted in your chart, right? So like when you have like Libra and Aries opposite signs highlighted as your ascendant and your sun, you know that axis and what's represented by that axis is something that karmically you're trying to understand, you're trying to elevate yourself, right? Um, but what I was saying about Libra is that even with the rising, you have to watch out for the whole people pleasing thing, right? Like even the rising Libra rising can have a tendency sometimes to acquiesce just to maintain the peace, So I think obviously, as I was saying, like being an Aries, which is like not a sign that really takes shit, that will help in that respect. But you know, I think that it's just important to really like, you know, understand that that is a tendency for Libra, right? Uh any placement, right? Even the Libra Mars, right? And it's just not good. It's not so it's just important um to lean into that Aries side, which is very good when it comes to boundaries, right? To lean into that um when you need to. And just make sure that there's a certain level, like, like make sure that you're not allowing people to get away with shit that they shouldn't be getting away with. Um and I think a big thing, I think I was saying this when I was doing your chart the first time. Um, but a big thing with that axis is being okay with being single. Um, Obviously, so like that axis, Aries Libra, it's all about relationships. So karmically, it gives the idea that it's not saying, if you were so much on one side or the other, but I'll give you both extremes. So extreme of Aries is I can't be single, or like, no, no, okay. Extreme of Libra is like, I can't be single. Like, I'm down to be codependent in relationships. And even if it's not, something I like, even if there's something that's bugging me or whatever, I don't want to disrupt the peace because, being alone is the worst. That's an extreme, right? Just codependency. I need to be in a relationship to be happy, and allowing kind of your life to be defined by relationship. Aries, on the other hand, is very much the opposite, where it's like extreme, right? Because we're trying to find a middle ground. Is like, I just want to, I'm not willing to compromise at all. Like, I'm super independent, and anyone that tries to like take that from me, that's an extreme, right? Like, I'm not willing to compromise at all. So the axis of Aries Libra is asking us to find a balance between like taking the best parts of Libra, which is the diplomacy, the ability to really kind of be understanding, right, of people in different situations, and really, really feel someone else's perspective. That's one thing that's so good about Libra, right? And then with Aries, it's like in relationships. So like, having like a seventh house Aries sun, seventh house sun people, they, the sun takes on a vibe of Libra, right? Because the seventh house is a house of Libra. So it will make someone who, relationships are a big part of their life, like that's how it's meant to be. It's, so close to the descendant, and you have Venus right there. So it's like, I'd be very surprised if, relationships weren't an area of life that were very important. That was, I would be very, very surprised. It's just about knowing that there's, there's gonna, there probably has been karmic tests around that. And when it comes to like the right partner, and you have an unaspected Venus, so besides the conjunction, it's unaspected. So there's no hard aspects to it. And it just conjuncts the sun. What that means, let me just double check my eyes. Yep. Yep. Wait, no, it squares the moon. What am I talking about? Never mind. But like, yeah, overall, um, you know, it's just about having that like, like not being like, yeah, finding that right balance, right? Where you're being direct, and you're also compromising, but you're really being honest with yourself and with your partner, whatever, about what you're willing to accept. And then the Libra part, Libra rising would give someone a very good ability to speak their mind in a very tactful manner, where they understand. And this can help in business. This can help in so many different ways, right? Libra rising, because you have this like, this ability to be very, to come across in a way that's very flattering and very charming and very, very understanding of the other person's perspective, and kind of where they're coming from. So using that with, the Aries fire, and just having faith that your chart is showing relationships is a very important, area of life, and where you learn a lot. So, relationships, partnerships, clients, if you have clients and whatever you do for work, stuff like that. And it's beautiful that, like, you have Venus there, your ruling planet in the seventh house, because that really enables you to see the beauty in your partners, right? Venus seventh house is a great placement. In Aries, it's difficult, Venus in Aries, but it's just so well placed and conjunct the sun that, the one thing with Venus Aries that I see sometimes is that sometimes they will go towards relationships like super head on. Um, and like they'll like put so much work into getting the person, like male or female, they'll a lot of times they'll go after who they like, but then when they get them, they'll like want space. They'll like really want to like maintain their independence within the relationship. So I always found that interesting. Um, but yeah, so yeah, so with the the T square, it shoots out really close to your part of fortune, fourth house Capricorn. So that's kind of like how that's all resolved. And it's in, fourth house Capricorn, basically your part of fortune, right, is where the T-square pushes out at in your IC. So it's like, to me, that's all about developing like a deep spiritual relationship with yourself, and having like a rich inner life, and and being your own metaphorical father in this life, right? Because as a sun square moon people are not meant to. So yeah, sun square moon people are not meant to just like follow, right? Um, sun square moon people are meant to blaze a path that's different than their mom and their dad, right? So a lot of times, like, like you'll get certain clues from both, but you're not meant to just like follow that, right? You're meant to kind of blaze your own trail, I guess you could say. So and everything comes back to your north node in Pisces, right? The north node in Pisces, north node and south node, right? So south node in Virgo, south node is like the karmic tendency in past lives, right? And north node in Pisces, so the south node is like the been there, done that, but like what you're really good at, what comes naturally. And then the north node is like the metaphoric mountain you're trying to climb in this lifetime, right? So that being in Pisces, and I north node for me is like extremely important. You know, you're here on a spiritual quest. So it definitely does connect with all these, because um like within all your relationships, like the best thing you can do is really, really be in tuned with your Cancer moon, right? Um, not tune that out. To be very, very honest about your emotions, and yeah, like really like building that firm sense of inner self-worth, right? Um, so there's like a huge need to master any like emotional insecurities you might have. Um, but yeah, like the part of fortune in the fourth, like, the joy comes through, being in touch with that inner self, right? And also like allowing new beginnings to come, and allowing yourself to detach from like worldly expectations of who you're supposed to be. So that's kind of how like a lot of like the T-square gets resolved. Let's see. But yeah, as I was saying, with the North Node in Pisces in the sixth, which is the house of Virgo, of course, there's a tendency that I see with people. I just like, I don't know, I guess I'll leave my camera on, but I'll literally just like stand up and walk around like this and walk on different places, which I feel like is probably kind of annoying to watch, huh? Whatever, I'll just turn the camera off when I do that. But yeah, so the North Node in the sixth house in Pisces, you're trying to really become more spiritual and gain deep compassion in this lifetime, right? Um, so on one hand, it's like a quest to learn responsibility, and I think like with the South Node of Virgo in the 12th, you have to like think about how there could be some self-limiting beliefs, right, that have hindered you in past lives. So I say this very often, like every day, right? Every day that you live. I don't know if you know any like very, very Virgo-y people. It just every single day there is a million things that you can allow to make you worry and to make you doubt, and to like lead to all these negative emotions, right? Those negative emotions, like if each day you're worrying about something, right? For example, that's keeping you away from Pisces, which is all about oneness. It's like the most spiritual sign, right? It's a mysticism, high, like just like the highest version of love for humanity, for existence. Like that's what you're trying to go towards, right? So what can get in the way of that is if you have self-limiting beliefs about what you can achieve and like who you can be, and and just like kind of ruminating thoughts, if it's like shame, whatever it is, right? Um, and on like a dharma level, because your moon is on the midheaven, so a Cancer moon on the midheaven is definitely going to be very attached. They want to be very attached to what they do for a living. Um, so just having whatever that is, like there could be a past life tendency of having these amazing ideas, right? But then not following through on them, or like having like these amazing ideas, like just aspirations, things that you want to do with your life, but then allowing yeah, like a self-limiting belief to kind of push you away from following that, right? If I'm gonna charge, if things gonna mess up. Work, please. Stay charging. Good phone. Okay, very good. Yeah, so you kind of understand, like it's about like with the Virgo Pisces, it's like the good part of Virgo is the precision and the step by step. Like let's say you have a big goal, like I want to become an astrologer or whatever, right? Understanding that there's steps that you have to take to get there, right? But then like the bad Virgo would be like, oh, I want to be an astrologer. Oh, but like it's so much work and I'm just not good at that. I'm not, like, I couldn't be that. Right. So it's like getting rid of that negative self-talk. And one way to do that is through things like meditation, spirituality, deepening that. This is a big theme in your chart, is deepening that, that spiritual relationship with yourself. Um, and Pisces is about compassion and faith at the end of the day, right? So the Virgo South Node could have that tendency to like build very rigid structures, like within and without, right? And sometimes even cling to like the material world in a sense, right? Oh shit, this isn't charging. Hold up, I'm talking on the computer now. 11%. Yeah, I swear, like in one day, I have two chargers. My phone and my computer both started like just being weird. So let me plug this here. And hopefully the computer doesn't die. Does it work? Is it connecting to my Galaxy? Okay. Sorry about this. Work, please. Finally. Okay. So yeah, like Virgo, yeah, so there can be like the tendency to like kind of like be overly rigid, and that rigidity takes one away from that faith and that compassion, because they can be so much in the material world, right? Um so it's that movement from material to spiritual, from worrying to trusting. That's like the big karmic shift, right? Brightness is too much. Because, and also I think about Virgos that it could be like overly, yeah, I said critical of the self, but that same uh when one is critical of the self, then they become critical of others, right? So yeah, it's like really about like developing spiritual understanding, and learning to really rely on your intuition, rely on your heart, right? Because that potential rigidness can really block your understanding of of oneness, of the universe, of your relationship with the divine. So I think another part of that is letting go of that desire to just escape into a fantasy world, right? So like the sixth house is speaking of like developing a productive life, right? In following your dreams and not not allowing yourself to kind of just like do the low Pisces thing, which is just like having all these great ideas but then not following through. So Mercury rules your south node and it's in Taurus in the 8th house. So one thing about that is just to watch out. It's in the 8th house, so it's definitely gonna it would be it'd probably be in the 7th in terms of um Placidus. This head pressure. But for me in whole science in the 8th, but basically like, oh yeah, your Gemini energy also. So there's a lot of energy in your chart that like this with a Taurus 8th house, like it's like this big need to transform yourself in this the kind of that when it comes to like learning and information and cognition, to just be able to just like not get stuck in kind of like dogmatism, right? Or something that brings up like a fear of change. That's really important. But like the 8th house Mercury person will definitely be someone who is looking for the depth, looking for the deep. They're looking for that deep, deep, deep. So that's pretty interesting. And Sirius is conjunct it. How many degrees? Yeah, 1 degree. So that is definitely gonna make someone able to like be very sweet in the way they communicate. And like you want to like 8th house Mercury, you want to go deeper. You want to like if someone with 8th house Mercury will be very interested in the kind of like the occult, the esoteric, like the things that most people are afraid to look into, right? The underground, anything that's like hidden. So I think Sirius and Mercury together gives you like this amazing timing, like knowing the right words at the right time. So that's really good for like any kind of healer job or career. And it just makes you able to be like the nurturer through your words. Really, very good for like motivational speakers too, teachers of any sort. Anything like therapist, like anything where you have to, where you have to use your voice slash like that kind of like give and take with speaking and listening. I want to check one thing. The moon, it's not in Pisces yet, is it? I bet you it's 28 Aquarius. Let's see if I'm right. No, it's at 5 Pisces. I am wrong. Wow, I love it. I love when the moon's in Pisces. Okay, cool. Cool. So, then there's this massive part of your chart, which is basically like your Mars and your Jupiter are in the 9th house in Gemini. So Mars and Gemini, I'm gonna go back to my share screen so I can walk around. Oops. Yeah, so Mars and Jupiter and Gemini, wow, in the 9th. So that is super interesting because essentially, it's Gemini planets, but it's in the house of Sagittarius, like with every part of your chart. So Mars in that position is very much about it's giving you this like, okay, let's start. It's giving you this drive to travel physically slash metaphorically. So also it's like the activation of the lower and the higher mind. So Gemini is the lower mind, not that it's Jupiter or lower like that, just that I always give the example of the metaphor, I guess, of the journalist, the data collector. That's Gemini. So 9th house Sagittarius is more about the person that takes all that data and then creates their personal truth out of it, and then their truth right? So this is in your chart showing up a lot because your moon is on your midheaven. So then your truth that, so you're really meant to go out in the world and just discover things, right? You're really meant to do that because you're then taking your truth, right? Like, obviously, like two people would choose different careers or different, or would have very different values if one of them thought that everything the mainstream media says is correct and blah blah blah. Not to get political or anything like that, but just like someone who's like very very brainwashed, um, would be a lot different than someone who is very spiritually inclined, right? Um, and who kind of like has that like inner, they've traveled. I don't know. It's not travel, like it's not about like being able to travel physically. I mean, yeah, ninth house Mars, it will create someone who wants to do that, who has a big drive for that. But it's also just a drive for wisdom. Ninth house Mars and Gemini, it will make someone very, very active when it comes to finding truth and finding teachers and finding people that can really teach them and move them closer to that. And then the Jupiter ninth house is the best place you can have your Jupiter because it creates the teacher. It blesses that area of life. And the ninth house is Sagittarius. Jupiter is its home is the ninth house, right? That's where it likes to be the most. So that creates someone who can have lots of luck, lots of good fortune, lots of expansion when they travel, to different countries, but also just in regards to their learning, right? So the Mars gives the drive, and the Jupiter in ninth house can be a great teacher, a natural great teacher, but also a great learner and someone who's open-minded with Gemini, right? And who is willing to hear different worldviews, right? So then what's interesting in your chart is that it connects with your moon. Your moon is on the midheaven. So this is the part of your life where, you go out and you are constantly updating the information, right? So you're constantly updating, and then it's then pushed into your dharma. So I could imagine that based on everything you discover, you then decide, because it's a Cancer midheaven, Cancer moon, which, yeah, that could be about real estate, and it could be something, it could be businessy. Let's not act like Cancer isn't very very good with business. But it could also be about nurturing others, about compassion, right? And then that would also be hitting your North Node goal, right? Like if you could have like a career or what you're doing, your big picture, because it's not career. I don't like saying that because not everyone has like a career like that. It's just like your dharma. Some people's dharma is all about their spirituality. So yeah, it's different. And your dharma in North Node Pisces would be a lot based on that. That journey towards faith and compassion and all that. So, let's see. So yeah, there's definitely a certain logic that comes from the Mercury and Taurus person, but with this ninth house I just explained, um, it would be like the lower manifestation of that Mercury and Taurus. It's good because it's good for logic. It's good. It has a slow, methodical learner a lot of times. Not always slow, but methodical. Likes to have kind of reliable systems. Sometimes they rely too much on tradition, right? And they can be stubborn-minded. So I don't imagine you're like that because you're getting an astrology reading from me. But a lot of Mercury Taurus people, mainly men, I would say, are the types that would be, it's not the only Mercury sign that would be against like, giving astrology or something like that a chance. But yeah, it's just like important to not be stubborn with ideas. And yeah, but I think your ninth house kind of liberates that enough. So relationships, I think that Venus and Aries definitely is a go-getter in relationships. As I said before, you value someone who's independent, someone who is fun, someone who gives you freedom, but also as a Cancer moon, there is a part of you that really needs that security, that doesn't, that wants someone who can kind of meet your emotional needs, right? That's important. Cancer moons, like, they can be, with you, with the square to your ascendant, you could be easily misunderstood by people, right? So it's important for you to have someone as a Cancer moon most likely if you don't have a family already, most likely that's something that's, that's important to you. So someone that meets that side, and that doesn't blow off, like, someone that's emotional, or that at least can, like, understand your emotional nature, right? I just think overall with the Aries Libra energy, it's just like, yeah, just like the right person, like, when it comes to give and take, like, Libra energy, like, with, it's all about finding that right balance, that harmoniousness in relationships. And then Juno is in Leo. Um, so, Juno is kind of like your ideal mate, 11th house Leo. There's definitely a level of, like, humanitarianism, shared ideals is a better way of putting it, between you and, like, your ideal mate. Um, Juno and Leo, I think, would make someone very, like, Juno is like next level partnership, right? Well, Venus is more like dating, if you want to put it like that. So I think that Juno and Leo is very much wanting someone that can make you laugh, that can kind of open up that inner child, and that there's also this deep loyalty with, right? Leo's a very loyal sign. And you also really want to be proud of, someone, you want to have that kind of, like, really, really be proud of them, that that's your person. But the main thing I think about when I see Juno and Leo is just, like, wanting someone who you can laugh with, and who you can just be silly and a kid with, um, and let your hair down, as they say. So now, Black and Lilith is in the first house, 12th in whole sign, or 12th in Placidus, but it's in Libra. That's what matters, right? So Black and Lilith, think of it like you at your lowest vibration, but something that can be transformed. So it goes with what I was saying earlier about, you know, like, the potential for allowing others to kind of steamroll over you, per se. A little bit of a hyperbole, but, just the potential for people pleasing might exist. And for, I think also Libra can be too much. Like, that's another thing about your chart. I think I was talking about in my first failed attempt, um, was this potential obsession for relationships, right? And how sometimes people, with some of the things I see in your chart, they can, like, judge their life based on how good their relationships are going, as opposed to how happy, like how are you doing, could be like, the answer to that can be a reflection of their relationships, which is not good. So as a Black and Lilith in Libra, it's important for you to, to really be, yeah, like, kind of, I was talking about it earlier, like, to really be firm with, you your needs, and to just not just, like, take shit from someone, not just, like, not to really, like, not people please, and besides that, to have boundary, like, strong boundaries in general. It's not just with lovers, because what can happen sometimes is that, when we extend ourselves too much, people take advantage of us, especially very empathetic people, like, that have Cancer moons. So that's really important. So okay. And yeah, and then, of course, Venus in Aries is kind of like, it's trining your Juno. So definitely like a fire, like someone who kind of lights your fire. But of course, love astrology is, like, I would never say, like, these are the signs you need, or this is the element you need, because it's really unpredictable, and any two combinations can work, right? It's way more than just, like, the sun sign, moon sign stuff. Like, it's really a lot deeper than that, because you have a whole, I do those readings too, but you have, like, a whole a whole composite chart that's created, right? So yeah. Okay, Pluto in the second, very interesting. So on the more of the karmic level, the Pluto second house person has had lifetimes where they've been in survivor mode, and because of that, they really need to not like they can sometimes see money as like the save all be all, right? And a lot of times there can be like past life trauma, past life fears that are based on lifetimes where you didn't have it resources. So in this lifetime, like, and I've seen this a lot, people who have this, right? They can like be super successful, but then still feel afraid to spend their money, right? Um, because of the fear that they're gonna run out, even if they're like rich, you know, like they've like wealthy, like they've done really well for themselves, right? So, um, you know, it just is another thing with your Pisces North Node about having that strong spiritual relationship, right? Because when you can start to align your values, and of course, Pluto second house, like, you know, there can be people with that can be like become very obsessed with finances, you know, and it's not a bad thing, right? It's just that, oh, like the obsession, yeah. It's about finding the balance between spiritual and physical values. So not being too high on the money train. Like, yeah, money is it's very nice to have money, but you know, I've seen people with this who are just like workaholics and they kind of base so much of their life on money and then they don't spend the money. I'm just like, what the fuck was the point in making it, you know? Like, yeah, you want to have like you know, you want to be secure and whatnot, but at what point does it become like a little bit crazy, you know? At what point is it just too much? I've seen different people like that in my own family. So yeah. Then we have a lot in the fourth house. Um, a lot in the fourth house. So I want to see one thing. Hold on. Has been moved. No. So the fourth house of family, of early home. You know, you've got Uranus, Vesta, Neptune, Saturn. So that's a bunch. Of course, those would be in the third house in Placidus. I like to kind of give both downloads because, like, you know, and actually, I'll go there after because I was gonna say your Chiron in Cancer would speak to, you know, it would speak to some kind of pain being felt within your family, some feeling misunderstood, typically by your parents growing up, whatever the situation is, right? So, it can also make one a very, very good healer, a very good emotional healer. But, you know, having Saturn in the you know okay, so like if it's the third house, right, if we're thinking of it like the third house, and also 10th house Chiron, it would be ninth house, but in classes, but yeah, it a lot of times results in someone who might feel a little bit scared when it comes to taking risks, especially like public risks with career. Like maybe early on they had some type of like, I don't want to call it trauma, but just, you know, mini trauma of sorts, or like mini traumas that kind of like make it hard for them to put themselves out there. It could be something that comes from the family. But as I said earlier, the sun spermian person, a lot of times they're very successful because they have this chip on their shoulder, you know. And but like like I was saying earlier, also that the difficulty is like, you know, like they're blazing a very unique trail, especially in their own family. So, you know, Saturn, Uranus, fourth house, third house in Placidus, in the different house system, of course. The third house variation would be very intuitive, someone who can communicate, who can write very eloquently, who can, you know, especially after 30, after the Saturn return, a lot, you know, they might have been shy early on, but then a lot opens up, especially as they learn to value their like, you know, they're very spiritual and kind of intuitive and kind of ahead of their time side. that's when they can speak their mind and learn to be very comfortable with it. But they might, have had ideas that were very different than, their family of origin or their where they grew up, and sometimes that can be difficult. So with the fourth house, the energy, it's definitely like Uranus fourth house people, sometimes they had like a divorce or something that kind of made them feel like unrooted. There's also this whole piece of like being very, very connected to your ancestors, very connected to like spirit. Like it can make meditation just like very interesting because you're able to really feel into different levels of reality, right? So it's quite neat. And Neptune, I think but also, yeah, with Uranus, it can kind of lead to like someone later in life having difficulty settling down and always wanting to move and change things. So Neptune is different. Um, a lot of people with Neptune in the fourth, they're seeing their childhood in an overly idealistic manner. So, you know, let's say like for example, the childhood was not great. Some people with the Neptune there, they might look at the childhood and be like, "Oh yeah, it was all good. Everything was good. Everything was fine." So it can kind of bring that person away from having like a realistic assessment. They can either over idealize or under idealize. Also, since Neptune clouds that house, yeah, it is very good for like having like a very deep spiritual outlook, but it can also cause someone to, yeah, have like to literally like not be able to remember their childhood, right? So it's important for that, when you have that, to really look back in like an honest way. But yeah, I've talked to so many people who have that Neptune, and they're like, yeah, like I literally just I don't remember it that well. And some people who are like, yeah, like I do for some reason, like have like a more positive or a more negative. It's not like really based on reality what I feel about my childhood. So that is interesting. And then Saturn, that all those in the fourth would speak to like kind of like a non-traditional type of upbringing. Saturn would be different. Saturn would speak to like feeling restricted growing up. Um, yeah, just feeling restricted, feeling like your voice is kind of not there, and that kind of goes like the whole Chiron. There's definitely a lot of family kind of energy in this chart. Um, a lot of my clients, I always say, they're the one to break like the generational curse. So that could be you too, with all that fourth house. And then Vesta, with your Uranus, it's like kind of giving a clue to where you might be really good in career wise, and that's like very humanitarian with Neptune also, right? You might like to really work in ways that you can use all these skills you have, Virgo South Node, in a way that really benefits humanity. Okay. Also, doing things like hiking, being in nature, be very, very good for you. Um, anything where you're touching the earth, be very nice. And I think you have every element, right? You have water, earth, air, yeah, you do. And yeah, just lots of like, allowing like the really intense experiences in life to come and to transform you. Um, you know, it's really like the eighth house vertex person. It's like through the intense experiences that that they go through, that's really their opening to a level of higher awareness, to overall awareness. So yeah, just like allowing yourself to just surrender in different times in your life, and to allowing yourself to fully transform, right? So okay, let's go there. Okay. So right. There it is. Much nicer. Hey, Mika. Mm. So yeah, I think relationships with Eris on the Descendant could be a little bit fiery, a little bit volcanic. Um, but as I said earlier, you're looking for things that have that right balance of like life, like that fiery life force, and then peacefulness, peace, balance. Okay. Yeah, so I definitely think you're someone who's meant to be of service in this lifetime. A lot of stuff around love, and yes, Mika. Let's remove this. I already looked at this the other day. Mika. 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 Right here. Let's open this up. Let's just see this. Yeah, so your Uranus and your Mars are that's interesting. They are out of bounds, and your moon. So yeah, I think that like when it comes to traveling, when it comes to like learning and all that, like that whole house, they're both out of bounds. It's based on the latitude declination, I mean. So it's like one's here, one's there. Which is interesting. And they're also yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, I guess I would say that like yeah, like truth and traveling could be areas of life where you just go, where you just go and there's no stopping you. It's like a insatiable like just thirst for that. So let's do this. Yes, Mika. Yes, Mika. Good girl. Nice kiss. Mika. Mika's an Aries like you. All right, let's pop open two things. The other thing about Saturn fourth house, a lot of times people who have that just didn't feel like supported early on in life, right? And sometimes they didn't feel like they had like a firm footing to start out. But then like a lot of this energy is like wanting to like really work hard to develop like a family of your own. If your family early on wasn't supportive, you would want to build one that is. And then with Moon square Venus, I didn't really talk about that because you have very few aspects. Um, so that would just be about like fear, like difficulty expressing your feelings in relationships. Feeling like you can't really relax. And just like be yourself. So it's like a lot of challenge to like you know reveal your feelings and all that. Um, So yeah, it can kind of be difficult for relationships to have Moon square Venus because you just got so much cat fur on my face. And then, oh yeah, and your Mercury, of course, has a beautiful aspect, the trine with Uranus. So that is really good, and that's kind of like a genius energy, honestly. And it can make someone who's like, yeah, very original, very ahead of their time, um, who's able to so like it kind of pushes away some like the potential negative with the of like the potential stubbornness of like the Mercury and Taurus, and it has someone makes someone who has like a very like kind of steady mind, but also things can move really really fast, um, and communicate with ease, receive downloads from who knows where. And sometimes people with that struggle because they can be so ahead of their time, even as kids, right? That's why a lot of people that I see with that, a lot of my clients will have that, and they'll have their Chiron in Gemini. But in Placidus, your Saturn would be in the third, so that and then also like those other ones in the third would make sense because you'd have this yeah, just like this really interesting mind that maybe was misunderstood early on. Right, let's pop this open. Mika, again. Come on. Mika, come on. Come on. Mika, stand up. Come on, Mika. Mika. Yeah, you're a good girl. Nice when you're not. Okay. You have child rising, so that kind of gives one like a very inner childlike type vibe. Very innocent, kind of like external being. Um, and someone who's been really, really embody their inner child very well, having that rising. You keep getting cut hair in my mouth every time you do that, Mika. Um, oh yeah, and we talk about Pallas and Pisces. In the sixth house. So okay, Pallas is kind of like in Pisces. It's like another part of your mind, right? So that's like a very open third eye, a very like meditative mind. Um, where when you get really deep into into your spiritual practice, whatever it is, you can really like merge your mind with like the universe, right? Um, Also, it's another really good one for healing through words. Um, and yeah, it's great for artistic expression. As I said, with the Venus on your sun, I wouldn't be surprised if you were an artist or, like art and creativity was like a big part of your life. Okay, no more doing that, Mika. Oh. Um, so then you had like one of the, oh, never mind. Never mind. Actually, no, because it's an asteroid. Yeah. So you have Hecate conjunct Venus. So that is about like potions, herbs. It's one of the three very witchy asteroids, right? So, um, that could be something. You could be like someone who's like very witchy and it's close to your sun, close enough to your sun too. Potions, herbs, like who feels kind of that inner witch. And then, oh yes, Sirius didn't really talk about that in Taurus. So that is like how you feel nurtured, kind of like a second moon. So in Taurus, in the eighth, you definitely feel nourished, nurtured, nourished, whatever you want to say, when you experience these deep and kind of intense emotions that help you transform. Also, when you dive into metaphysical matters, right? And it's also related to sexuality. Um, So being able to like give and find comfort in sexual experiences. Oh my God. Ah, cat hair. No more, Mika. We need to get your. Oh my God, they're shedding so much. You're shedding so much. Why can't you clean your own shedding up? I can't not touch their fur. Insufferable. Oh yeah, then Sirius and Taurus. Um, it makes one like really feel cared for when in love and just in general. Um, when they have like a real sense of stability, sense of security. Um, also like the senses, the five senses, especially like touch. Um, really, really enjoying like touch and closeness, physical closeness, and being nurtured in kind of and nurturing in kind of practical ways, right? Um, showing other people that you care through kind of like practical means, right? Mm. So I think there's a certain lightness to you, where you're able to really like attack the the real dark parts of humanity. Um, you're able to really see through them, I guess, as just that, and have like a kind of detachment, which is so valuable as a healer, right? Use my scratching. And then yeah, so the Mars is Bellatrix and close to Capella, I guess. It's close enough to Capella, but yeah. So Capella is all about it's one of the wealth stars. So your Mars being conjunct it would be good for that very thing. Um, Bellatrix with Mars is it just gives like a lot of physical strength. Um, but you have to watch out and not take too many risks because it can kind of bring about like anger in people, and there's like a lot of creative energy, right? But it can be violent sometimes. So it's like really good as an Aries, especially to have like a physical outlet for your energy, right? Um, sometimes uh, Bellatrix can create like people that are surgeons or just like yeah. Um, but yeah, also it's like very like non-traditional lifestyle, conservative lifestyle. It's I like things to be spiced up. And yeah, it's definitely good to be in like a kind of group that is like gym or like a something where you're able to release that energy. And mm, mm, I guess with Vesta and Capricorn, I would add that in the fourth house, it makes someone very committed to their family, to their home, looking after other people and whatnot. And sometimes, like early on, they experience extra responsibilities. And with the Capricorn part, it's just very good for being a good worker, and for like placing like, like for being very structured in your workplace life. And just gives like a lot of discipline and ambition, and yeah, it's good. You'll be a good work someone who like if you are in a job that you'll be trusted. So that's nice. All right. Well, that was very smooth. Oh, and actually, oh, it's kind of far away. Yeah, I just think that like the idea of like just creativity and even like poetry or just like some kind of like abstract um thing like that can be very, very good for you career wise. Oh my God. How does cat hair? I swear, like they have minds of their own, and now I have a beard, so it just gets stuck. I like facial hair. Oh, annoying. Oh God. Okay, whatever, whatever, whatever. No more kissing cats in my face. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. So even that you saw me better for some reason. Whatever. Maybe you do. Yeah, my brightness. Oh, you do. Okay, cool. So that is everything. So let me know if you want to add the follow-up in current astrology. Nearly everyone does. I would do it for instead of like 550, I would be happy to do it for 360. And basically first hour is a follow-up. Uh all about what we talked about today, comparing your lived experience with what I saw here. Remember, everything I saw here is just a potential. Your free will plus the natal chart equals everything. So I give the potentials. But yeah, it's really like to get the full experience of moi, I always suggest adding that. And then the current astrology, it's done in the same session. So it's usually 3 hours long, sometimes a little bit shorter, sometimes a little bit longer, depends. These days it's been shorter though. I've been trying to keep things. Oh, I'm an hour 16. Oh, I know I did this twice, so I probably like knew about a lot of this stuff already, but if I could just keep every reading around this time, I'd be so happy. But yeah, so basically you have to let me know over IG about that. But yeah, it's kind of like we're going over everything I know about predictive and current astrology. So that's a slow return, progressions, your transits, your house ingress, your solar arc, blah 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 blah, everything. But then I call it current astrology / spiritual alignment, because it's a lot more than just me telling you this and telling you that. We talk about your life, your direction, where you're at, everything, right? So it's very, very good. Everyone loves that session when they get it. And a lot of people come back each year and get one each year. So let me know. If not, thank you for being patient. I hope you enjoyed this. And it will be on YouTube forever. So, when you want to watch it in 2 years or 3 years, you can watch me scratching my face. Okay. So 1 second. And, also just knowing that, I do the readings for so yeah, that's the one, to add the follow-up in the current that most people do. Sometimes they want to see like go Mika. See, the reading before that. But I do compatibility readings. I teach astrology one-on-one. It's all on my website, justineastrology.com. But yeah, also last thing I want to say is that the wait time for like if you decide to do the follow-up in current astrology, it's not a long wait. It's literally like just whenever, it's like weeks, it's not months. It's like whenever my next opening is for on my schedule for a live session. So let me know. Obviously zero pressure. You know how I am. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But yeah, no pressure. Just letting you know that. And yeah, thank you, thank you. Ciao. Bye, turn off.